Hi guys, welcome to Real-Time Animation Tutorials, and today we are going to do some rendering inside Iclone7. So this is our scene. So this is a sci-fi corridor scene, and I got this model from sketchfab.com from a creator named Tin Can, and you can download this. And shout out to Tin Can. I downloaded the original format, and that is Blender format, and I just converted that Blender file into FBX and then simply import it. Now let's just get started. Let's open a new file, and now I am going to import our mesh or geometry. So I'm just gonna click yes. It's asking if we should separate this into separate meshes, and so this is how it looks in the beginning. So if you look at this original model, we can see all the good stuff, that is reflections, right? So really nice reflections going on, but I'm not sure if we will be able to get this reflections in iClone, but still let's try to get some reflection that looks good. But before that, let me explain how we can achieve some reflection inside Iclone7. So I'm just created a plane and a sphere, and let's decrease the brightness of our roughness so that we get a really reflective surface. So now you can see some reflection here. Let me change the HDR so that you get to see more reflections. So there you can see some reflection from the sky, from the IBL, but you cannot see any reflection of our sphere. So one way to achieve reflection is if we change this to a traditional material, and there's something called reflection here, and let's see. And so maybe, okay, so there is the reflection, right? So we are getting some reflection there, but the reflection is really weird, and this just does not work, and I cannot see the reflection of this sphere. So let's change this back to PBR, and now let's turn on our global illumination here. So also make sure that you have set your real-time rendering quality to high, and that's the only way you can see the global illumination real time. So if I now turn off our IBL, now you can see something going on here. Right? So that looks like a reflection. So if we take this sphere and scale it, And now you might get to see some reflection of the sphere. So there it is. So if I turn on these voxels, you can see it's limited to this area. So for that, let's go to light and click on GI anchor, and we can increase the area. So now you can see the reflection is actually based on the area of the voxels or the GI range. So if we go inside of global illumination settings and check on this tracing, you can see that actually we are actually seeing these voxels, and the settings are inside of tracing. So this is what we are going to use today to create a metallic surface with some reflections going on, right? So let's just delete this and let's just start. So let's first make our materials shiny. So I'm just going to turn down the brightness so that its roughness is decreased, and instantly you can see something going on here that looks like reflection. So this is without the tracing. This is with the tracing. Also, let's make this even more metallic, even more shinier by changing the brightness of our metallic texture, and we are getting some reflection there. And for the lights, you can see the self-illumination is turned on, and I'm gonna add some glow. So you get some nice glow. So you can just copy and select the rest of the lights and then paste it. So now, as you can see, this glow also affects the amount of light we are getting, and also inside, if we change the GI settings of our material, then we can also control the amount of light and reflection. So now let's first change our shadow settings. For optimal settings, I go for 4K shadows and bias to 0, and also inside project settings I'm gonna turn on higher resolution of voxels, and also check on suppress light flicker. And now if we turn off all the lights, so this is what we have now, and so this is without the global illumination, and this is the whole scene is just illuminated by global illumination and some materials. So I'm gonna go for this red sky. As you can see, the resolution is really bad, so I'm just gonna blur this out. And maybe add a glow. So now you get this interesting looking sky. Something that looks like outer space. So I'm just gonna double click on this, so that way you can reset. And also inside our GI settings, I'm just gonna double click this so that it looks something like this. So as you can see here, something weird going on, I think, and that is because the model, there's a little bit of gap. So I'm just gonna move this and it's solved now. So whenever I light a scene, I always put a character so that I can see how light falls on the character. So let's find a character. So I'm just putting this outfit Kevin character. So let's just throw in a motion. I'm gonna go for motion from Mason, and I think this is really good motion capture. Let's turn on our key light and just rotate it around to get a nice shadow, so you can see some nice lights getting inside our ship. Now let's move the character where he's lit by the key light. Now if we look at this character, we do not see any reflection in his eyes. We might be able to get some reflection with IBL. So there you go, you can see some reflection there. But the problem is, since our set is reflective, everything else will be reflected. So in that case, I will not be using key light. So instead of key light, I'll be using a spotlight. Let's turn off our key light and let's get a spotlight. And what is really nice about these spotlights is that we can create some reflective shapes. So as you can see, he is nicely lit by the spotlight, and if we change the shape settings, and instantly you will be able to see some shape. So I'm just gonna adjust the shape so that it looks something like reflected from the windows of the ship. And also let's change the color of the light to match our sky. So before I do anything else, I'm just gonna remove the animation from our character and spotlight because we are not at the first frame. So let's go to first frame, and now before we do anything else, what I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna turn on the brightness and add even one more color adjust and turn on the brightness even more. So this is, at first I just want to check how it will look if I increase the intensity. So this way I can also check the contrast ratio. So contrast ratio is like the difference between the darkness and the brightness, the ratio between the darkness and brightness of a light. So for now, let's keep it this way. I think I'm fine with this. I want a little bit more contrast, so I increase the intensity of the spotlight and decrease the brightness inside our post effect panel. I'm also gonna change the color a bit. And also now you can see that there's something going on. So this is actually the reflection of the spotlight. Let's rotate this spotlight a bit so to get rid of that reflection. And also add a little bit of shadows. Also, to increase the ambient light, we can do some tweakings to the lights. So we can just select all the lights at once by pressing Shift, and then let's scroll down to the bottom and now play with light bounce strength and self illumination scale, so that way you can get the amount of light you want from GI. So as you can see, there is something weird going on here, and that's because of this tracing. So I'm just gonna decrease this even more, so that you don't see those blocky textures. So I think this is much more smoother and it's looking nice. Let's this, and if we turn off all this bounce strength all the way down, then you will not be able to see reflections. So I'm just gonna turn on those a little bit, so that you just get to see a little bit of reflection on the floor. So now to add up a little bit more light, I am going to change this IBL to something basic, like this IBL Sunny. And the light is coming from top. As you can see, the top part is brighter, but what I want is I want the light to come from the bottom so that it's reflected from the metal. So I'm just gonna invert this, right? And now you get a nice looking ambient light, but I think this is too much, so also I'm gonna change the color so that it matches the light coming out of our spotlight, something orangey. And let's decrease the intensity even more, just to give a little hint of that orange tint. And let's play with the settings one more time to make the image pop out a bit. And also let's add a color filter. So I'm just gonna add some green and blue filter. This color filter inside of Iclone7 is really nice and works really well. As you can see, you are instantly able to change the look of entire scene. So since I've added more blue, the red is all gone. That is because, and also the color filter is a bit too much. I'm just gonna decrease this. And let's go and find our sky, and also let's change the brightness. I think this is fine for now. So now you can see the environment is also animating. So for that, you open the timeline, and here inside of project you can see a keyframe. Just select the keyframe and delete this so you don't get any animations. So to make this scene even more interesting, I'm gonna add a spear and transform its shape to something like a saucer. Give it some glow texture. also crank up the glow GI settings. So let's place our actor here, and you sometimes you really get lucky, you don't have to do much. So I think the actor is looking really nice here without any more lights, but I'm gonna add one more light so that it looks like it's coming from the lights on the wall. So for that, I'm gonna change the shape to tube and try to align this with the light on the wall. So you can see some nice light going on there. Let's also change the color. So let's render this image and let's see how it looks. And for the close-up shot, I placed the actor near the window. So now here, the problem here is now we can see the actor blown away by the light. So first thing I'm gonna change is change the post effects, because that way you can see more details on his skin. Let's first add a camera and activate depth of fields, and I always turn on bokeh type to something hexagonal or circle. For this one I'm gonna go for hex. So if I play with these adjustments, I'm still not able to get a nice details on his skin. So as you can see, even if I go darker, you still cannot see details, which means that our spotlight is too bright. So for the close-up shot, I am going to decrease the intensity of spotlight. I think this is looking much better. So let's render this and let's have a look at 100%. So now we can also, select these lights and also change the color to give this new look to our whole scene. So as you can see now, the scene is lit by a green light, and also I'm gonna change rest of the light. Let's render this and have a look. So we do have some issues going on here, like here you can see some color bandings going on, right? So for this, what you can do is you can add a static noise which says smooth color banding. So this is going to take care of that problem. So let's render this one more time. And I'm guessing that because of YouTube compression you will not be able to see the difference, but still there is a lot of difference. And also there is one more issue, and that is aliasing. As you can see here, these aliasing happens mostly because when there are very sharp and angled geometry inside. So one way to get rid of that might be softening the background. So to soften the background, I'm gonna use a camera, and let's hope if it works. I don't think it's working. We can still see these ugly aliasing happening. Okay, so what I tried later on is that I tried to add a little bit of blur to the entire image in post effect, and that seemed to work quite well. This is too much blur. I think the blur is also coming from the camera, so let's just turn this to preview. So let's render this. As you can see, the effect is reduced. The image is not too blurred out, but still there are some aliasing going on, but it's way less. So this is without blur. You can see these aliasing, and with blur I think the aliasing is reduced. So now with this issue solved, let's get a nice looking render of our character. Okay, so now you can see some other issues here, and that's because of depth of field. And this usually goes away if you turn off the super sampling in render settings. But for now, let's just open Photoshop and give it some contrast. And let's give it even, and now let's make it look even more cinematic with giving it a letterbox, maybe. So that is it for today, guys, and I really hope that this was helpful. And if you have already subscribed, thank you so much. And if you are a new visitor, please support me by subscribing and liking and sharing my videos. Thank you.